today. This million, billion, trillion, gazillion dollar industry that is so broad and can be so complex in nature that oftentimes people who are just trying to approach it for their first time home buying experience are intimidated by the process in and of itself and sometimes altogether avoid it for that same reason. So, having people like Brina Hayes, who is a broker in Mississippi, who we'll be talking to today, that really prides herself and really has built her brand around educating people on the home buying process, especially those who don't know anything about it or have had bad experiences prior to and may just need a little bit more knowledge and guidance as they go about their process. Having people like that is extremely important. And it really sets the tone for your buying and selling in the future as well, because knowledge is power. So today we're going to sit back and talk with Brina a little bit about what it takes to purchase a home, some things to be looking out for in today's market, and overall just encouraging us to take the leap. It's not as scary as it seems all the time, and we just need to learn a little bit more about it and get more comfortable with it. So if you're interested, pull up a chair, take a seat, and let's talk about it. Hi, Brina.
Hey, Grace.
How are you?
I am doing well today. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
How was your holidays?
They were good. I did a whole bunch of traveling around. Saw my knucklehead siblings and cousins, and saw my grandparents. They're not knuckleheads. Hung out with them for a while. How was yours? You got Rugrats, so I know y'all had a lot going
I have
on.
big kids. I don't have small kids, so it was
Once a
very
Rugrat,
chill.
always a Rugrat. Well, thank you so much for joining me today because, as you know, starting off on this podcast, I really wanted to be able to bring people in who are experts in specific areas. So a lot of us are jack of all trades, master of none, and you have a lot of things that you can do. So you are a very multifaceted person for sure, a hustler. It's in
I
your
would
blood. One thing that we've talked a lot about that I thought would be really good for us to touch base on is real estate, home buying, specifically for our first time home buyers, because that's kind of where you found your niche. That's your passion, your love. You love to help people, you love to teach people and kind of coach them along and be a resource. And so it makes sense that you would find yourself kind of in that new home buyer space as it relates to real estate. So really wanted to bring you on to talk a little bit about that. How long have you been in real estate?
No, I've been in real estate since May of 2018.
Okay.
So a little bit over, I guess, this year will be 9 years. Well,
Okay.
7 years. No,
Yeah,
my
don't
mind
make
is
me.
back. 6, 8 years.
Y'all, as long as it's numbers related to the house, she can keep track of those. The purchase and sale prices, she got you on that. Just like this little simple math though. Yeah. And
Give
I'm
me the
not the
simple math that
person.
gets you every
Yeah.
time.
I'm not the person to check you because you can tell me something. I'll be like, yeah, okay. And then someone looking at both of us like, what's wrong?
Nah,
So,
that ain't it.
yeah. Okay, so
Yep, about
almost
8 years.
coming up on a decade though,
Yeah. And the
for
market
sure.
has changed so much since I first
Mhm.
started. I've gone through a pandemic, and just having the ups and downs of the real estate market. So I guess my expertise lends to several different types of markets. So I think
Mhm.
that gives me a little bit more leverage as well.
Yeah. So, what are you currently doing in real estate? What are things looking like for you right now?
So this year, my goal is to, of course, find me kind of like my niche per se, not with just first time home buyers, but a certain type of market. I do have a lot of interest in first time home buyers and minority buyers, and not just to be specific minorities, but just people who don't have the information they need about the home buying process in
Right.
whole. So, and a lot of times it does affect our minority communities more because they don't have the education.
Mhm.
But, definitely open to anyone who wants more information about the home buying process. So, those are one of my goals this year, just to reach those people and get kind of in positions where I will be able to help those on a bigger platform.
Okay. So, you're a broker, right?
I am a owner broker.
Yeah. So, you've had that license for how long now?
I've had my broker license. This is my second year with my own
Okay.
brokerage.
All right. And the name of that is, we got to
B
plug it.
Hayes Realty Group.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and
Okay.
as of now, I'm just a solo agent broker by myself. Maybe looking to take on a few agents here and there who want to know more about the real estate profession. I have a really good friend that has a real estate school. She was my previous broker, so there are so many resources, good resources, if you want to get into real estate and find out more about that as well.
Okay. But all right, so we're talking about bringing people into real estate. What got you into real estate? Because 2018, I don't know what the market was like in 2018 because I was graduating from college. I wasn't buying a house. However, I do know that by the time 2019 came around, you were in a really sweet spot to get a house
Yes.
before everything that happened in 2020. So, what brought you into it in 2018 in general?
Well, my previous role was I was kind of running a different business. It was a family business that my uncle started with his dad several years ago. And I pretty much stepped into that role in 2012. So I had gotten to acclimated of working for myself. And as you
I
said, I
told
have
y'all
many
the
facets.
hustling, the hustling's in her
And
blood.
hustling.
Yep.
And so I kind of want to stay in that lane. I want to be able to still continue to be able to work when I want to work.
For
Basically
sure.
have that freedom of owning my own business. And so just kind of segued into real estate when I did my research of what were some things that I probably could do to segue into sales per se, because that was my previous background. We sold furniture, like contract furniture and
Okay.
art, school supplies and things of that nature. So that's my motivation initially, was why I got into real estate. And once I took my courses and got licensed, I quickly realized you learn nothing about real estate from going to school. It's definitely a hands-on experience type job.
So your journey, you got into it because you were kind of segueing out of a different kind of business and wanted to continue to work for yourself. What did your journey look like past or post passing the exam and those kinds of things? How did you pick your first brokerage? What made you get to the point where you were like, yeah, I'm gonna be my own broker? What did
Well,
the process look like? How long did that take? Like, we need details.
it was a very, I'll say for me, it was a difficult process because I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
And when I first got into real estate, I was at a very, very small brokerage. It was probably about three agents. My broker was also an attorney. And that was her bread and butter. So she was kind of like a broker on the side. And so she really didn't have the capacity to just kind of feed into me and actually show me the ropes. And not because she didn't have the resources to, but just didn't
Right.
have the time to. And so my first thing I would say, anybody that's getting into real estate, when you picking a brokerage, make sure you interview your broker. Make sure you find out that if they have or offer things that are important to you. If you're going to be a part-time agent, will they be available after hours? Will they be available to help you on the weekends or at nights? Or how much hand-holding will they do? Because some brokers still are working instead of selling, so they may not have as much time to kind of baby you and push you along the way. Some brokers are really good at that. Some brokers are not, but most of them will be upfront about that. So
Yeah.
I would just say, and some people choose to go to like big brokerages or national brokerages, franchise brokerages, because they offer a lot more of resources because they've made a business out of getting new agents and teaching them, and they have a lot of systems and education. So just throwing out a name like a Keller Williams. So like those are good brokerages to start with if you need a lot of education,
Yeah.
because they have those things set up in Streamline. I'm not saying a small brokerage wouldn't, because I would definitely wouldn't want to take anyone that I couldn't feed into them and give them more information as they needed it, and be available to them, because that's a big thing. And as a broker, you're responsible for that agent, so you have your license and their license in your hand. So you want them to be factual and you want them to be efficient at what they're doing, not just out
Yeah.
there getting themselves in trouble, and you either. So I would say I started at a small brokerage. I then transitioned to a franchise brokerage. And it was a little better, but I quickly learned real estate is all about how hard you work. No one is going to move your business like you will. So you
Yeah.
have to put in the work, you have to do the calling, you have to you can't be the secret agent. People have to know you're selling real estate. There are thousands of agents in our area. One on every street corner. You always know somebody that sell real estate. So that don't mean they're good at it, but they're selling real
Yeah,
estate.
they're doing it.
They're
Yeah.
doing it. And literally get your license. You just gotta take a test and
Yeah.
you're in there. I just feel like, make sure you find out what's important to you when looking for a brokerage.
All right. If I am a new home buyer, I've not gone through this process before, or I have and it was terrible, and I don't know what to do at this point. What are some things that you need to be asking that I would need to be asking an agent to make sure that they're in the right place to actually help me accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish, whether I'm buying it a house only or selling something and buying? Like, what are some things that new home buyers or inexperienced ones should be asking and looking for?
And I'll give you, to answer your question, first I'll give you a scenario.
Okay.
I bought my first house when I was 26. I had no idea anything about a real estate agent, that I needed one. I just looked around on Zillow, found a house, and called the number on the sign and said, hey, I want to buy this house. I didn't know about getting my pre-approval or anything. And I would say, I feel like I got a raw deal on that first house. The agent was not helpful, and I feel like so many things that I should have gotten done, I didn't get done. And I'll say I didn't stay in that house long.
Yeah. Yeah.
But with that being said, first-time home buyers, an agent is beneficial to you because they know everything that you need to know to start the process. That beginning process of getting a pre-approval. A lot of agents say, I can't show you anything until you have that letter in your hand. And that's not just because you'll be wasting our time, you'll be wasting your time. You need to know if you're qualified. Some things that you would need to know to get qualified to purchase that home. I like to stay in my lane, so I would say always reach out to a lender. There are different types of lenders. Most of the basic two people use are mortgage brokers and banks, some credit unions. So first things first, you want to find out about your financing. Most first-time home buyers think, I can't afford a house, or I have to make a whole lot of money, or I have to have a lot of money down in order to purchase. And that's not necessarily true. Kind of back in the day, you used to have at least 20% down or a lot of savings. And now they have so many programs that make it accessible for you to be able to purchase without a lot of money down. And so my first thing I would say to a first-time home buyer, somebody's just interested in purchasing a home, I would say the main things that any lender is going to ask you for are your last 2 years of your tax return, your several months of check stubs, just to show that you're consistently getting the same amount of money. And do you have anything in your savings in your credit score? Some lenders may say you can have a 580 credit score and get finance, but it probably depends on why your credit is a 580. If it's a 580 because you hadn't paid anything and you got all this stuff in collections, or is it a 580 because you just never built your credit?
Right.
And so those things make a difference as well. But most first-time home buyer programs, you have to have at least a 640 to qualify for those first-time home buyer programs that give you down payment assistance and things of that nature. And it does fluctuate. Sometimes it used to be a 620, and so they've upped the score as well. So they want you to be financially literate when you're purchasing a home. I think that's one thing that's changed a lot in this current market, just being able to afford a house. Interest rates are much higher than they were during COVID or even right
But
before.
you know what's crazy talking about that, like being able to afford it. Some people find themselves in situations where they're paying huge amounts of rent. I mean, we live in you know, rural Mississippi. So compared to what the rest of the world is seeing, our rent is chump change. What we're paying is chump change. But relative to the area, you have people that are paying
The median
$2,000 a
income is
month.
different as
Right, that's
well.
what I'm saying. Relative to everything else that has to do with our economy here in this part of the world, it's still high. So you have people who are paying $2,000 a month, darn near, for for rent for a one bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
But people are paying that, but they're still not being able to get homes that have
Exactly.
lesser mortgage
I'll say
payment.
because, rent is just rent.
Yeah.
Once you're purchasing a home, your mortgage is going to be inclusive of taxes, insurance, which things that may fluctuate, go up and down. So those are things that they have to equate for because you're going to be paying it within your house note. And I
Yeah.
think they won't at this point. It depends on the type of loan, but sometimes your debt to income ratio can go up
Yeah.
to like 54% depending on the type of loan that you have. But some loans won't even let you go over 35% debt to income ratio, which is really low. Like
Yeah.
you really probably can't have a car note
Right.
and buy a
Or
house at
credit
the same
cards or
time.
anything. Yeah.
Like,
Hmm.
seriously, because I mean
Yeah.
cars are expensive. So the average car note is between five and nine hundred
Please.
dollars.
Please, Brina. Please don't get me started on that. You know what we just went through with that. I cannot. Everything's
Yeah,
expensive.
everything is so expensive now, and I mean, just to be honest, it's very difficult in Mississippi for first-time home buyers. Not just the down payment assistance, or it's really the income and the prices of houses.
Yeah.
Even though we are still at a median income of probably 45 to $60,000 a year, which is kind of on the high end. Most of the median income is for especially a one person household. If you're a double married couple, you may make about $100,000 a year together, and that doesn't get you much house. I'll just be honest. That median house prices in Mississippi and the Pearl, Flowood, Ridgeland area is probably about $235,000. I mean, to find something under $200,000 is very rare now.
Yeah.
Definitely in those
Super.
areas. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say if someone get quoted a current interest rate, I think like 5.8, and
Mm-hmm.
for a $300,000 house, their house note would be about $2,500.
That is insane.
It's insane.
That is crazy. You
So,
know, and something else that I noticed too. So back in 2019, I was in a house, and it was purchased right before the whole COVID stuff happened. Now that house now is worth maybe 50,000 dollars more, probably more now. I don't know, but I remember in 2024, uh, we were doing some looking at houses, and the houses were probably $100,000 more. Interest rates, of course, were stupid. They were like 8% at that point when we were looking. This is with no down payment, like VA stuff, all of that. And the houses themselves did not look better than the one. And I tell you what I mean by that. Like simple things in your closet, in the master closet, you have like the built-in shelves with the drawers, stuff like that, right? This house is $100,000 more than the current one. You go into the closet in the master bedroom, and it's a freaking wire rack. Like we're at an apartment complex, and I'm like, wait a minute. Like you're not getting any more. You may get like 150, 200 square feet more, maybe. And they're gonna squeeze
maybe.
another bedroom into that, right? But like the way the finishes are, all of that stuff, like you're not getting bang for your buck at this point. But the houses are still flying off the rack, which is crazy to me.
Well, and then also now you have a lot of new construction. So I
Yeah,
think the market has
that's what
shifted
we were
to
looking
new
at.
construction
Hmm.
because people aren't selling because they're trying to hold on to those interest rates.
Absolutely.
They're trying to hold on to those 3 and 4% interest rates that they got in 2020 if they refinance or they purchase during that time.
Yep.
And so now it's just not a lot of inventory. And when there is some inventory, it's less than desirable most of the times. You know, some
Yeah.
things have been improved some, but for the most part, they're less than desirable. So a lot of people are interested in wanting new construction. And new construction, you got to pay new construction prices. I can just say I purchased my home in 2007 for $169,000. My house may be worth $279,000 now. So that's $100,000 possibly in equity and just growth in the past 17 years.
Yeah.
That's the reason home ownership is important. You can stay in an apartment from here to forever, and your rent is going to go up because their bills are going up, and you got to continue to help pay their bills. And at the end of the day, home ownership is difficult. You're going to have repairs. You're going to have things that are going to cost you money. But it's just like having a car. You're not going to buy a car and never have to put tires on. You're not going to buy a car and don't have to put brakes on. You're not going to buy a
Can
car
we stop talking about car repairs, please?
and not have to do maintenance. If
Yeah.
you buy a house, you're going to have to do maintenance. So it's good to not live above your means so you can put money to the side and have that nest egg for when things do happen. But that's why home ownership is so important. And it's so important that we, as a people, not just as a minority, but just in general, real estate is like the number one way you want to get rich.
Yeah.
Because all these get rich schemes are not going to grow like real estate is going to grow. You're going to make money in real estate if you invest well. So you have to be particular about the areas that you invest in. You have to be particular about the things that you put into a house. You can over improve a house for the area. So just be mindful of those things. But home ownership is wealth. You see now so
Yeah.
many people talk about generational wealth. Real estate is the best way to build generational wealth. Only way I know, during the pandemic, people were purchasing homes. I know someone that purchased a home twice in 1 year and made $20,000.
Sheesh.
I mean, where else can you make $20,000 in 1 year and do ultimately nothing but pay your mortgage?
Right.
So it's very interesting. You have to invest well, but it's an investment. Real
Yeah.
estate and purchasing a home is more than just having a home. It's an investment, and
sure.
it'll pay off.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. And I don't know what the numbers are specifically, but I've heard it many times over the years that multiple of the world's millionaires and multimillionaires and so on and so forth started in real estate, and not necessarily in that they're selling it or whatever, but they're leveraging real estate in different ways that then, brings in wealth. So it definitely is a great starting point. We'll get into like house hacking and stuff because that's something that I've seen a lot about, but I wanted to circle back to what we were talking about as far as the median household income for Mississippi. It says that it's typically the lowest in the United States, but it is around 55 to 56,000, and that's household. That's I don't like. We're not.
I don't
saying
even
that
think that's
one
realistic now.
person. That may be two people. That
There may
be
be two people now.
because we're saying a household. So I'm gonna say that's two people, and that's
I'm gonna
from,
make it in plain terms for you. If you're working a job and you're making $20 an hour, your yearly salary is probably going to be between $42,000 and $43,000 a year, and that's if you're making $20,000. So if you're working at Target or somewhere else or retail or some of these lower end paying positions and you're making $15 an hour, most likely you won't be able to afford to purchase a home, a $300,000 house, or maybe yet a $200,000 house.
Yeah.
So
So how do people in Mississippi in that position, because we're talking median household income, just
I'm gonna have to
in
bring
general,
it back around to
we're
be realistic.
okay.
You gotta
How-
be
but-
realistic.
But either way, how do you prepare? So I need to understand, to be realistic, what am I even looking for? Like we talked about the debt to
The
income
number
ratio,
one
how
thing
that
is gonna
may-
be your credit.
Okay.
You want to build your credit if you don't have any credit. And I'm not talking about pay somebody a couple $100s to take stuff off your credit report. That's the fast, easy way. But a lot of this stuff doesn't come off. And a lot of times those mortgage lenders, when they pull things, they can see everything. They can see what you've had erased. So a lot of times that's not the best way. I will always say reach out to a lender that you trust or that you can get more information from that's going to educate you. And a lot of times those lenders can tell you what they're looking for and ways to build your credit. I'm going to stay in my lane, but I'm going to say credit is going to be a major thing. So if you don't have any credit, start leveraging yourself. Get you some lower and just $300 maybe credit limit credit cards that you can get one or two and buy your gas on it and pay it off every month. Keep those balances low. Keep your debt to income ratio low. If you don't have a car note now, don't buy a car before you buy a house, because that car payment will increase your debt to income ratio astronomically. That's the other part of it. So I would say the first step first, make sure your credit is in line. You can't have any delinquents in the last 12 months. And this as far as like being late, 30 days late on something. Evictions and things really don't matter as much unless they've sued you and it's on your credit report as a collections or something like that. There are some ways, some landlords don't report your rent as credit, and some do, and there are some ways to leverage that as well. So my first thing was make sure you're credit worthy. Make sure your credit is in order. That's the number one thing. The second thing is they like you to be on a job at least 2 years. It don't have to be the same job, but the same field. They just want to make sure that you have stability and working, because they want to know, if we're going to give you a 30-year mortgage, are you going to be at your job long enough to pay us for the next 30 years? And so 2 years isn't indicative of that. And once you get the house, you can change. They're not going to come back and reevaluate everything unless you want to sell and buy another house. So always keep your credit straight. That would be the first thing. The second thing would be make sure your longevity on the job or consistency with the job. That would be my second thing. And then the third thing is make sure you're paying your income taxes. Make sure if you owe student loans, you're paying them. They're not in default. The government isn't going to give you extra money if you get an FHA loan and you're not paying the money that you already owe. They're not going to give you any more. So I would say a person trying to position themselves, if your goal this year of 2026 is to purchase a home, pull your credit report. Even if you go to Credit Karma, freecreditreport.com, go ahead and pull your credit report and see what do you have on it. If you don't have anything on it, plan to start building slowly. I think just a major thing in our community, my cousin was saying this the other day, my grandmother always preached, if you can't pay for it in cash, you don't need it. And so we have grown up to where if you can't pay for it in cash, it's not that we're not credit worthy or that we won't pay our bills. A lot of us do pay our bills, We just don't have the credit leverage to do it because we've been taught to pay everything in cash. You don't need anybody to give you anything. And credit is just such a big thing that people need to be educated on more than anything. How to leverage it, what to buy, what not to buy, how much, interest rates, all those things. So definitely get you some type of credit, financial literacy. That's a big thing. And save some money. You don't have to have 20% down to purchase a home, but they like to say you have a certain amount of reserves. Most of the time it's like 2 months. So if you know you're going to have a $1,600 house note, then you need to have $3,600 in the bank. So that's a good thing, have some types of savings. And you just want to have savings anyway, because anything can happen. You don't know what you'll have to do. So they like you to have some type of reserve. So those would be my things. When you get your income tax this year, put it to the side. Don't go buy new furniture. Don't go buy another car that you don't need that's going to last you 12 months. Put your money to the side. And even though I say like Brandon, Pearl, Madison, Ridgeland are desirable areas in our neck of the woods, right? It's nothing wrong with buying a house in Jackson. It's not anything wrong with buying a house in Pearl that may be a 3-bedroom, 1 bath that may be $179,000. It may not be your dream home, but it's what you can afford now. And if I can't say nothing else on this podcast, just because you buy a house don't mean you got to get there and stay there. we as a people, we got to get there and stay there forever. We got to pay this house off. It got to be our grandkids' house and our great grandkids' house. We got to pass this house down. You don't. That's how people become rich. They sell a house, they buy another one. They sell a house, they buy another one. They make 20, 30. They put that on another house and put that on another house. So many ways that you can leverage that. And so I feel like just the education of how to leverage purchasing a home in today's society is so important. And like you said, not just for first-time home buyers or just uneducated home buyers. Some people
Right.
purchase a home and their realtor mate didn't explain things to them. Or when I call you in 5 years and say, hey, you bought that house 5 years ago, let's see how much equity you have in it. Let's see, can you, make a quick $50,000 off this house, and you may want to upgrade and buy that dream house that you couldn't get at first because the interest rates may were higher when you purchased. And so many things of how to leverage that and put it into another house and put that 50,000 down, and you make buy you a $350,000 house, but only have a $300,000 mortgage. So it's so many ways to leverage that. But as a first-time home buyer, if I can't give you any other advice, just be financially literate in what works for you and don't overbuy. We live in a society that we have to have things that we really don't have to have. Guilty of, I eat all my money up. You know what I'm saying? I eat more of my money up than anything. I will go and buy $100 meal with my friend and have some drinks and eat real good and spend a quick $50 or $100, but you can't make me go in that store and buy $100 shirt. And some people will buy $100 shirt and will be eating noodles. You know what I'm saying? So people spend money on things that they want. It may be a sacrifice. You may have to sacrifice for a month, 6 months, or something like that to be able to, if your goal is to purchase a home.
You talked about just leveraging your house and your real estate that you're purchasing for the purpose of living in it to kind of build wealth and things like that. So I've seen people who utilize that method to kind of what they call house hack. So they'll buy a house, live in it for 2 years, and then sell it and use that and then roll it over to the next and so on and so forth. Or they may not sell it. They'll live in it for 2 years, then go into another one, but get tenants for the one that they were in and then move on to the next. What are your thoughts on that for like new home buyers, especially in a world where things are so expensive, depending on where you are and what you do, that can limit you on what you can actually afford, obviously, and what's available to you in that area. So what do you think about leveraging real estate, not just in a purchase to live kind of mindset, but also purchase to live and then use that as a way to get you some passive income?
I think it's a great idea. I think that you probably have to wait more than 2 years though. You don't
Okay.
really start building a lot of equity. Just look count at your APR. When you pay your house note every month, I'll just say, just for number purposes, if your house note is $1,000 a month, you're probably $200 of it probably is your escrow, which are your taxes and insurance. So that doesn't go towards your principal or your interest or anything. So if you take that off, you got $800 left. Probably 600 of it is going to the interest, which is going straight to the bank.
That's crazy.
Only 200 of it is probably going to your principal. And so even though you bought that house for $169,000, after that first $1,000 note, you only then pay $200 towards your principal, which is what you're paying off. So that's why some people say if you pay an extra house note to the principal, if you pay an extra principal payment a year for, I think they said maybe like the 20 years you can pay your house off early. That's kind of a hack, but if you're not planning to pay your house off in 30 years and you're looking to leverage that property to buy something else, you gotta have enough income. Most likely you're gonna have to be able to be approved for 2 mortgages. So even though, and you're gonna be having to report that income that you're making off that rental house as your income.
So it can't be like a little under the table back, deal.
Well, I'm
where
gonna
you
tell you
got
how
to-
it hurts you, because if you're paying your mortgage but you're renting it out and someone's giving you that money every month, right? when you get ready to go purchase a house, they're gonna say, "Where are you getting this $1,000 a month from? Where are you getting this extra $1,000 a month from?"
Yeah.
So then the lender is gonna say, "Hey, when I looked at your bank statement, every month somebody's giving you $1,000, you know," and you like, well, you know, I'm renting out my house. Where on your tax return it doesn't show that you're reporting that income, so they want to know where the money's coming from. So just be leery of that, you know, making circumvent some. I don't know, let them pay the mortgage directly. I don't know, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's a thing of, and they may say, if you're paying your mortgage every month, why I don't see it coming out your bank statement? You know, who's paying your mortgage? I don't see where you're paying your mortgage every month. So they're really savvy on how they figure these things out. After the crash, 2007, 2008, they are on you.
On it.
They done figured it out. So I would just say, don't try to be slick because they're gonna figure it out. Another thing, I always mess with my aunt. She purchased a property, and I mail her to this day because the lender was like, "You don't have any money in the bank," and she's old school. She was like, "I don't put my money in the bank." She was like, "If I get direct deposits, I go draw my money straight out. I like to keep cash. I got a mattress money, baby." She had some mattress money.
Probably had
And
thousands.
the lender was like, "But you can't buy a house with mattress money." You know, they
Yeah.
don't know where that money came from, or
Yeah.
you know, you can't just pull out $10,000 from up under your mattress and say, "Hey, I'm gonna put this down on the house." So, you know, leverage your banking. If you're getting extra money from somewhere, you got to be able to account for it, especially if you're purchasing a home. And you can put little amounts of money in at a time, and you know, it won't be a red flag, but definitely be mindful of that. So I would just say, in general, as leveraging real estate to purchase something else is a great idea, but you got to be strategic. It's not a quick and easy thing. You kind of got to know what you're doing.
Going back to what you can afford and being realistic, talk about equity and how, let's just say, so in Brandon, there was a house that was owned by a very old man, and he died. And I don't think he had any family or anything like that. So some company and the house was paid off, blah blah whatever. So a company comes in and purchases the house, does like cleans it out, gets everything out of there, and then turns around and puts it for sale. Now this house is on the same street as homes that are worth $250,000, $300,000, but they're selling it. They've got it on the market for $179,000, right? So you know, for $179,000 in that area, there's got to be plenty of work to be done, and that was absolutely the case. So would you recommend to a young buyer to be open to those, and not just young, but like we said, inexperienced, new, whatever, to say, you know what, we can buy this house with the ugly pink wallpaper and pink carpet and pink,
I would say structurally,
countertops.
I will make sure that house is structurally sound. You know, plumbing is intact, electrical is intact. We have a lot of foundation issues in Mississippi, so I mean, if it's a solid house, absolutely. I mean, I feel like sweat equity is a big thing, you know, and you can really invest in yourself when you having sweat equity built into a house, fixing things yourself and fixing it as you go along and things of that nature. Absolutely. I just feel like it's just like buying an old car and fixing it up. You know, or if you're buying something, you can buy a dresser off Facebook Marketplace, put some new knobs on, throw a coat of paint on, and it's just as new, you know. It's still holding the clothes. So, you know, I would definitely say that's a great investment. So many people ask me about foreclosures.
Yeah.
You know, after 2007, 2008, you just had this landslide of foreclosures. And just foreclosures, you can get a house, and with a foreclosure, it's going to be so good, such a good deal. Maybe these mortgage companies,
It's not.
they want all their money.
It's not.
They
like
want all
anymore.
their money. And literally, they want market value for these houses.
They do. It's
They
not-
want market value.
Yeah.
You may be a little below market, but if it's in a neighborhood and it's a $300,000 valued home, they might sell it to you for $270,000. But you're not gonna make they not selling it for 200. You're not gonna
Yeah.
make no money off it. And the biggest thing about buying a foreclosure, I always caution people about a foreclosure. That bank, you get what you see. A lot of times the utilities aren't on. Some of the higher end houses, they'll have the utilities on. Some of them may do renovation because they want their money out the house.
Right.
But a lot of these houses where you think you're gonna get a good deal on a house, you get what you buy. So
Yeah.
it's, you may walk in there and you think everything is good, and you get up in the attic, somebody went in there and stole all the electrical wire when you don't know because the lights went on and you didn't get an
Right.
inspection. So you just bought a house with no electrical wire and it's gonna cost you $20,000 to wire a house. You know, so you get what you buy with a foreclosure. It's as is most of the time. They're not going to do any repairs, or you won't really be able to get good inspections with the utilities not being on and things of that nature. So you can do inspections and stuff, but I definitely caution a first time home buyer,
Yeah.
maybe investor, you know, because they got money to burn. But if you are a first time home buyer and you're getting your feet wet, I would not recommend a foreclosure for your first purchase.
Yeah, I definitely, those are not the same. That was something that we were researching early on as well, and I was like, wait a minute, they still want $200,000.
They do.
What do you mean?
They want their money.
I learned something years ago. So I was working at a real estate law firm, and a law firm, but I worked in like the real estate division and kind of worked with all the title stuff and things like that, right? Mm-hmm. And there was this lady that came in, and I really don't know why she was there. I don't remember what the circumstance was, but she had been in her house for 20 years. And every now and then, every other, maybe every few years, 5, 6 years or whatever, she would be in a situation where she would get behind on her mortgage. They would come in, the banker, to go through the foreclosure process with her for that every time that happened. And she always would have the money. So during the time that I was there, she came in, they had started the foreclosure process, but you have until like a certain date or whatever to come up with the money. So she had the money. She came up with the money. She came, she paid it. She did the whole thing. And the lady that was over like that part of the law firm, she said this literally happens every so often, every however many years. She always gets the money. She said it's crazy because this lady has been in this house paying a mortgage for 20 years. So they've made plenty of money off of her in 20 years. But you can bet if she wasn't able to come up with that money, they were going to foreclose on that house. And to your point, get whatever it's worth now market wise. So it's crazy because it's like you've already gotten your money from her. She's been there 20 years. But now you got to turn around and sell it and get a whole nother, for the same property. It is crazy. I mean, I guess there's nothing really.
I'm gonna tell you, I'm in real estate, and I'm just gonna be honest. I feel like the mortgage company is a ripoff. Like I keep going back to the car grace, but I just feel like, how can you buy a $80,000 truck in 6 years? And you take
with
30
higher interest
years
rates
to pay for a $150,000 house.
There are people with $1,400, $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 car notes. Yeah.
So it's mortgage. That mortgage is a big thing. So that's why I say, I've been in my house 17 years, so I'm not practicing what I preach, but I would say never pay a mortgage for 30 years. Always leverage your mortgage and buy something else. It don't even have to be a bigger house. It would be they would never get 30 years worth of interest from me.
Yeah.
If I could help it. If I had the means, I definitely would not let someone get 30 years of mortgage from me. Like, it's insane.
So if you had to, let's say if you had to categorize the home buying process if you had to say what the steps are, simply like high level, from pre-approval to closing in let's just say 5, 6 steps or less, what would they be? So if I'm a new home buyer or inexperienced, whatever, I want to know, just snapshot, what am I doing? What does the process look like? What am I supposed to be expecting? Just like you go from this step to this step to this step, and then you close on the house. Okay. How would you put that?
So Believe it or not, the home buying process can take as little as 30 days. So it's not a very long process. Generally, it's 30 to 45 days. First step, get your pre-approval. Get with a lender, bank, mortgage company, credit union, get pre-approved. Then you go house hunting. Find a house you love. Submit a contract. You submit an offer. They accept your negotiations. We're good. We're under contract. Once you get under contract, you're going to have to pay earnest money. And earnest money is just like a down payment insurance. And when you sign a contract, it's a legally binding contract. So if you can put contingencies in the contract, like a home inspection or an appraisal, to kind of safeguard your earnest money. But you can't just pay like, I don't want the house no more. If you say that, then they get to keep your earnest.
How much is the earnest money typically?
Typically about $500 to $1,000, depending on the price of the house. Some people charge 10% of what the house is. On step three.
So pre-approval, you go to your bank, lender, mortgage company, credit union, whatever, determine what you're pre-approved for, figure out what you can afford, and then the next thing is to go look for houses.
Go
So
shopping.
House hunt, that's when you're looking at things, that's when you're saying, ooh, I love that foyer, ooh, I love these floors, all of that stuff, the fun stuff. Once you find something that you like, your realtor is then going to submit a contract, or I'm sorry, an offer on our behalf to the seller's agent.
Correct.
And they will go back and forth. Oh, you're paying closing costs. They need to fix
That's
this.
why you need an agent to
Blah, blah,
negotiate
blah.
on your behalf. When you call that number on the sign in front of a house, when you're driving by looking through neighborhoods, that person on that house is working for the seller. So they're going to have the seller's best interest at heart because that's who they work for. So they'll represent you as well. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. You know, all agents aren't created, and that's legal. They can work for both of you. I've done it several times. But you want to make sure you have an agent that's working for you and has your best interest at heart.
Yeah.
So that would be, get under contract. Once you get under contract, you have to submit that earnest money, anywhere from $500 to generally $1,500, depending on the price of the house. You can lose that money if you don't. The only way you're going to lose that money if you do not go through what you sign on that contract. Anything that you forfeit on that contract makes you forfeit your earnest money. And that money goes to the seller. So the time that you took their house off the market, the time that you may have wasted for them, that's compensation to them for wasting their time, basically. So in a nutshell, and you'll get to keep your earnest money. That money will go towards your closing costs or any of your money at the end of the closing. So you won't lose the money. It'll go toward that. So you get credited for it. Once you turn in that earnest money, you have to turn in within 24 hours of getting into contract. That's Mississippi state law. So you got to have that money. You can't be getting that money up. You got to already have that money. Yeah. And some agents ask for that money in advance before they start looking. I don't generally ask for it until we're looking hot and heavy and we're going to submit a contract. Once you get onto contract, submit your earnest money, then you'll have a home inspection. The home inspection is also upfront cost. This is going to cost you typically anywhere from $400 to $500 for a home inspection. Home inspections are based off the type of home, the type of foundation, and the size of the house. So those things are what factor in how much a home inspection costs.
So home inspection. The type of home that can be like if it's a new home, there's a certain type of inspection that has to be done. If it's
a new construction, you have to have a home inspector that is licensed to do home inspector. They have to have a contractor's license. But like I say, the type of home, conventional and like conventional foundations, when they have those crawl spaces up under. Some people charge you more if they have to crawl up under the house. Things of that nature. So when I say the type of house, that type of house. And like one inspector I use all the time, he charges more per square footage. So if it's anything over 2,000 square feet, he charges one amount. Anything under 2,000 square feet, he charges a different amount. More house, more work. So that's an upfront cost. And that's one thing, just going back real quick, you'll have 3 things that you may have to pay up front. And that's going to be earnest money, There's going to be your home inspection fee, and there's going to be sometimes your appraisal. And that depends on the lender. Some lenders ask for the appraisal when it's ordered. They ask for you to pay that out in cash. And some lenders let you put it into your closing costs. And the reason why they differ is because some lenders feel like if we never get to closing, they still had to pay for that appraisal, and they don't want to lose that money. Or if something happens, within the process. So they want that money up front. So those are the three things that you would definitely have to pay for out your pocket during the home buying process. And I would just say, so you need to have anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 that you may have to spend in the beginning. And so after you get your home inspection, let's say the home inspection goes well, there's just a few things that need to be completed or fixed or remedied. At that point, we will negotiate again with the seller. Hey, the ceiling is leaking. I need a new roof. The drain is not draining properly. Are you willing to fix that? And they'll say yeah or nay. They may say yeah. And I was like, all right, we're going to agree on it, sign some more documents. We're moving forward with the loan process. And so pretty much after that, you go with the loan process. That's where the lender is going to be asking for more documents, tax returns, bank statements. They see something like, where's this money come from? Where does things? So that part, the agent is kind of taking the back up. That's where I stay in my lane. The lender really takes over from there. I really don't pick up until we get to the end. To closing. The underwriter is going to come back and forth with you for different things they may need. And after that underwriting process, you get a clear to close. So a clear to close is that, hey, we've checked everything looks good. Now we're ready to fund your house. And we'll come back and make sure all those inspection things are done. So you'll come back to me as the agent once the seller completes everything. They'll send me pictures, receipts, things of that nature, get everything squared away. Then we head into the closing table. Next thing you know, we got our keys in our hand. You didn't buy the house. So that's pretty much the process from beginning to end.
Okay. All right. So just for example, there were some people that were buying a house a couple of years ago, and their realtor, I'll just say that he wasn't very informative. This was their first house. And so all the things went fairly smoothly, right? Like they didn't have any issues, but they just didn't know what to expect. So when it was time to pay for the inspection, they just had to cough up that $300. Like they were like, oh shoot, we didn't know that we had to pay for that. When it was time for the earnest money, they're like, oh shoot, we didn't know we had to pay for that. Then when it was things that the lender really should have been communicating with them about, they're still calling the realtor because they're like, what's going on? What's happening? And they don't understand all of that. So it is very important. That's why I asked about just the general steps, because some people just think, oh, find a house that I like, pick it out, tell them I'm gonna buy it, and then I buy it, but there are some other
It's a lot of factors. It's a lot of factors, and I think that's why having an agent is so important. You've never done it before, so that's what makes us experts in the field. And that's just like anything. All teachers aren't created the same. All lenders, all real estate agents aren't created the same. And that you have some lenders that don't educate their buyers. You have some lenders. I try to facilitate. Develop relationships with people that are like-minded like me. So I have lenders that I strategically recommend for different types of buyers. If I have a buyer that I know asks a lot of questions, that's going to need a lot of hand holding, then I have a lender that I know is patient, that's going to educate them, that's going to give them everything they need. If they call 1,000 times, they're not going to be frustrated because they want to know. But you got some people that don't care nothing about it, baby. Send me a paper, I'm finna sign, I don't care. And I'm talking, they're like, all right, then. Go on, say, yeah, okay. Some people just don't care. And I don't care how much I talk. They be like, okay, if you say so, some people just not. And I got a lender that's going to get them on through and not going to explain a thing to them. You know what I'm saying? So all agents aren't created the same. I got a friend that she ain't gonna take you out more than 3 times. She gonna narrow it down. She's gonna educate them. She feels like her work is done on the front end. She's not gonna just shake you out and show you 100 houses because she feels like you're wasting my time and I'm wasting your time. these are your things that you want. Let's make sure we're looking for those things in this house, and we're gonna go and see these types of houses. We're not just gonna say, "Oh, this one popped up on Zillow. Let's go." She ain't gonna ride you around her car no lot. You know what I'm
Yeah, yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Me, on the other hand, I think that's the fun part of the house buying process of looking
Right.
at houses. So I'm not saying I'm gonna take you out 1,000 times, but I will cautious you. You know, if you say I gotta have a half an acre backyard, and then you come send me a house that got a slither, and I'm like, wait a minute, now you see this don't have but a slither of a backyard. You sure you want to see that? No,
Right.
I just love the bathroom, and I love this and I love that. I make and get away with the with the backyard. I said, all right, just be when we get over there, don't be like, girl, this ain't got no backyard. Now, I told you, this don't have no backyard. So
Yeah.
just having an agent that really gets and understand. Most agents, some do, some don't. Most agents do a buyer consultation, and I do. I sit down with my buyers, and we may not be in person, but I do explain to them in general, like we just did, the general process, things that are going to have in up front, the type of money. Do they have savings? Where are they going to get this money from? Because I don't want us to get in contract, and then
Right.
you lose your earnest money because you don't. You're not required to get an inspection, but I'm gonna cautious you to get one, and then I'm gonna make you sign something saying I told you to get one. Because
Yeah.
when something
Yeah.
come back, you'll be like, "Well, my agent didn't tell me." I'm like, "But I did
Yeah.
tell you. You just chose not to listen to me." So, and again, my disclaimer: I don't know everything. I'm not an inspector. I'm not a house builder, so I can only go by my information, things that are presented, and I can sell you a house today, and a pipe burst tomorrow. It's no way I would know
Yeah.
that pipe is going to burst. And so don't always put it back on your agent. Some things should be disclosed that they know of, but if it's something beyond, you can't disclose it. People say, I can do this on my own. I can write my own contract. I can do this. You probably can. Just like a lawyer. You probably can go argue your case in court, but are you going to know the laws? Are you going to
Yeah.
know, things that you need to know? Are you going to know how to complete those documents to make them legally binding? All those things that a lawyer went to school, that's his expertise. That's what he's getting paid for. That you can go in there with a deed, but it could be all wrong, but you got the piece of paper. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
And that's another thing, like for sale by owner. Some people want to cut out the middleman and be a for sale by owner. And 90% of the time, their for sale by owner leaves money on the table,
Yeah.
or they're overpriced and their house sits on the market because they feel like it's worth more than what the market attends to. And this one thing you gotta understand, I could think my house is worth $1 million. I put my sweat equity into it, I build it brick by brick. But if the house down the street only selling for 400 and it's the same size as yours and it's just as nice as yours, then yours ain't worth for 400.
Yeah.
I don't care if you put $1 million into it. That's why it's like over improvement. So real estate is a niche. We're agents, because we've been taught, we learned, we've got the laws, we know how to navigate the process.
Yeah.
Can you do it on your own? Probably. Would I recommend it? Not because just I'm an agent. I wouldn't. My first house, I would say, I never would have bought it if I had an agent.
Yeah.
Never would have bought it if I had an agent. I mean, it was so much stuff wrong with that house. And things that superficially they had redone it and it looked like it was in great condition. I'm like, oh, they painted, new floors, carpet is brand new. Like, I'm like, this is a nice house.
Put
And I'm not
lipstick on the
thinking like,
pig.
it had so many foundation issues. And like, it was cracks, but I was like, well, maybe it's just this. Like, because I didn't know what foundation was. It was
Yeah.
2 years in, it was like you could see through the house. Like it was horrible.
Yeah. Ooh.
I didn't know what a home warranty was. Like it was just so many things that was wrong with that house. And I'm like, plumbing issues. Like I didn't get an inspection.
Girl. Ooh.
Nobody told me to get an inspection.
Yeah.
I didn't have an agent. I just called the number on the sign. And he was like, sure, you want to buy it? Like, yeah. And wrote that contract up. I bought a house. I ain't know what I was about.
What'd you do with it?
I sold it.
Yeah.
hmm
To
I didn't make
someone
any
who-
money off of it. Probably
Yeah.
lost some money. I sold it
Yeah.
very quickly. Very quickly. An
And
investor
that's when
came
you
and said,
do.
"You want to get rid of this house?" Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
Whatever the bank will take, and you'll give me.
Yep.
But yeah, so it's just an experience. I would
Yeah.
say as a first time home buyer, it's near and dear to me because I do like helping people. I think so many people are afraid to start the process just because of the unknown, and don't be afraid to try or learn something and be open to doing things strategically in order to
Yeah.
get to the finish line. Nothing quick and fast is gonna be the best outcome. You gotta be
And it's okay
strategic
to
in how you
start.
figuring it out.
It's okay to start and be like, oh, maybe I'm not ready for this. And then back up, and kind of, I mean, once you get to where you have a contract, it's harder. But when you're going through those initial phases of like, what are the
Because
numbers
when they
going to look like?
pre-approve
All of
you,
those things.
they don't account for the light bill, the water
Right.
bill,
Right.
the other expenses that you may have, your children going to dance, karate lessons, or,
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying, you have some other things that you take care of that may not be showing up on your credit report, that may
Right.
not be factored in what they say you can afford. If you bring home $3,500 a month, your house not going to be 1,600, they're going to probably put you in a bind.
Yeah.
So you need to be strategic. Just because they say you can buy $300,000 house, I mean you might need to buy a $300,000 house.
Right.
So be comfortable, be confident in what you purchase because you want to be able to sell it and buy something else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So how could people get in touch with you if they want to buy a new
So
house?
I will say contact me on social media. I do have TikTok on Be Home with Bree on TikTok. And I have a lot of informational videos on tax sale properties and things like that on there. I used to work for Hines County, so I have a lot of information. And just people always ask about tax sale properties and have a lot of misinformation. So I like to educate people on those types of things. Call me directly, text me. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'll be more than happy to
And
help.
if you are an agent interested
For the
in
home.
folding under a brokerage, then you can also reach out to her
I
via
do
those
property
methods.
management as well. So
Yes.
if you're an agent and you're looking for someone who just have one or two little properties and they're looking for not a corporation but just an individual property management, I do that as well. I thank you so much, Grace, for having me on
Thank you
tonight.
for coming on.
I
This is so
appreciate it.
so
I hope you learned
exciting.
something new. If you didn't, I hope the listeners learned something new.
I definitely have learned a lot. I'm not in a place where I'm like, oh, I'm about to go buy a house, but when I do, I know who I'll be buying it with. Wink, wink.
Wait,
Yep.
wait. Well, I
Okay.
appreciate that.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for coming on. I mean, we talk for hours anyway, so I figured we might as well make it productive.
Make it
Give
productive.
people some information as well. So, yeah, thanks for joining me, and I'm sure you'll be back again soon to talk about something else that you're an expert in. So,
Well, I'll be happy to come back and thank you. I love your platform. I love the name, the concept. I think it's a excellent idea of educating people just on all facets of life. And I think you're incredible in putting your best foot forward to get that accomplished. And I wish you all the best wishes for your goals of 2020.
thanks.
So again, I appreciate you for having me tonight.